What's up guys, welcome back to TCG Metagame Breakdown for early March 2019. So again, like always, all the sources etc. will be in the video description, most lists from past weekends, a couple of tournaments slash regionals. Again, all the sources will be in the video description, also from the weekend before. I have to mention that, right? Second part of the video will be a little more focus on the amount of the amount of hand traps slash traps in Salamangreat. Again, very similar to how Zodiacs went or during Zodiac format. Most lists were very similar, but the differences were heavily focused on the amount of hand traps or, you know, the amount of regular traps they were running. But more info within the next couple of minutes. The first tournament here being the UDS, the Ultimate Duelist series from past weekend. A lot of profiles were up on YouTube again. But as you see here in the top 16 breakdown, the cutoff by Carloncho Store, of course, link will be in the video description. Both Salamangreat and Sky Striker having an equal representation. Again, quite cool since both decks feel quite same in their power scale. And then followed by, in this particular tournament, Thunder Danger and Zombie Danger. So Danger seems to be somewhat declining, heavily declining. And that's also something we saw from YCS Düsseldorf last week. Anyway, so as we see from the top 8 cut down, well, again, very similar, both Sky Strikers and Salamangreat, and then that one-off Thunder, well, Danger deck, right? Not too many differences between or compared to the other lists shown previously, or most lists that we already know, right? The winner of the UDS from last weekend was Sky Striker, the list you see here. Again, nothing spectacular, I guess, very staple Sky Striker list. Again, we've seen like a ton, right? So first place we had Sky Striker, the one of Thunder Danger list eventually got top 4, again with the Livionia, you know, the OCG name. It's also a very strong list, but it's same for YCS Düsseldorf as well. A couple of tops. Not really sure, I don't think there were any in the top 8 cutoff, but there were a couple of dragon-oriented or Thunder Dragon-oriented decks with or without Danger Engine in the top 16 cutoff. But Livioneer, very important. And Phantom Sky Blaster. Sky Blaster is also one of those cards that you see with their most recent TCG list, Scapegoat went to 1. And Phantom Sky Blaster is one of those cards that's quite asking for, you know, getting a limitation. And I would not be surprised if, you know, like Konami decided to put any form of limitation or, you know, putting it to 2 or 1. And I'm talking about Phantom Sky Blaster, right? The small Y-Burstar Collapse Serpent, again, quite important, but very straightforward, top 4 being Thunder Danger. And then also a list that was uploaded yesterday by a couple of YouTubers as well. We have Nekroz, we have seen 2 Nekroz lists on the bubble last week on at least in YCS Düsseldorf or from YCS Düsseldorf. This particular list, I like it. Zaborg, Mega Zaborg, very important here, key card here, but no Devi Ritual Incantation, Ritual Spell, only one of copy of the Ritual Monster, and also running the Nekroz of Gungir as well. Triple Brionek, of course, and the one of Shurit, going quite standard with the ritual spells. And that's somewhat different compared to the 2 lists I uploaded last week from YCS Düsseldorf. But again, I quite like this list. Also with the pot of Extravaganza here in the main deck. Again, quite iffy of, you know, potentially banishing your heralds. But, you know, the 2 cards can be quite important. Another tournament here. Sources from Carloncho Store was won, again no information about the amount of players, but again was won by Sky Strikers, still very strong, right, even though we are in, well, sometime in the new TCG format. Second place we have Prankets, somewhat faded away, you know, past couple of weeks slash months, but it's still quite a strong deck. I don't think they will be getting more support in the future, or indirect support that is, but still it's quite of an underdog deck, but Prankets, right, with the invoked invocation as well. And finally here, a Salamangreat list using Yeah, using the Phantasme, again, more information about statistics from the handtraps really soon, but this particular list, 3rd place up to run the Sanctum engine, again, very important. It's like a huge blowout in a mirror match, but again, if you see the percentages, it's not that popular. Same for Impermanence, people prefer Valor more or over Impermanence, and yeah, Ash Blossom still being the strongest handtrap and also the most used handtrap in Salamangreat. 5th place, again, yes, Salamangreat's right, nothing too spectacular. 6th place, also Salamangreat, again, some differences in the trap lineup and basically the hand trap lineup as well. So, again, I don't need to go into full detail. We know, you know, the small changes to each list. Same for the Tact Infusion spell card. Not most, at least most lists do opt to run one in the main deck, but not every list. Another, yeah, Salamangreat list 7th place. And finally something different here. Well, something different. We have True Draco, heavily stun-based deck with Inspector Border as well in the main deck. Stormfort being a 2-off, which is currently a 3, but nope. The card isn't what it used to be before it got limited, right, with Monarchs. Another tournament we have, I believe, a regionals in Bologna, 144 people. The Light of Sega Danger Thunder build also, of course, with the Phantom Sky Blaster, and also only 2 copies of Levianeer. But again, pretty straightforward. He's also side decking the, what's it called, the ritual monster, you know which one I mean, Prevent the Soravis, that's the name I was looking for. And also the Quackimero Drago, or Dragon, quite of a nifty deck. I've seen it tagged as well in the top 16 Dragon decks from YCS Dusseldorf last week. It can be a blowout in like other matchups, but yeah, side deck seems to be the most, at least the best way. It is of course very bricky against the matchup where, or at least against the matchups where it's not useful against. Anyway, another list here from Raphael Neven should be uploaded by Darren Stevenson indeed. This time Raphael ended up top 4. It's again a very similar list as he used in the top 16 from ICS Dusseldorf last week, featuring the Bufferlo as well, Sanctum with of course the one-off side engine, and yeah, outside of that still Raphael still preferring the same hand trap lineup as in Triple Valor, Triple Ash Blossom, both being the most popular hand traps in Salamangreat, followed by the Phantasme, right? But outside of that, nothing too spectacular. Another list here just popped in by Jonas as well. 2nd place last week at YCS Dusseldorf 1, and now apparently he won a regionals 6-0, 45 players. Again, props to, you know, Jonas as well, and from E-Man Games also. This should be the same list as he used last week. 2nd place at YCS Dusseldorf and 1st place at the regionals from, I believe today. Yep, today, 1st place. Very similar, right, to, or if not the same list as last week. So props to him. He's on a roll. I predicted him winning last week, and that was me saying it on day 1, but eventually 2nd place for him, but his time will come eventually. Another tournament here, we see 1st place. Okay, I like this Lair Infernoids, but again, it's like one of those decks that with the banning of Cross looks greener kind of faded away, but Infernoids is still quite strong, although, you know, other decks are just more consistent. Other guys somewhat faded away in favor of Subterrors, I guess, and Salamangreat being quite of a good budget deck. Then again, we've seen prices of, let's say, the 2nd place list by Jonas, like over 600-700 euros for a Salamangreat deck, but you know, it can be quite budget. So, okay, all the guys somewhat faded away eventually. 4th place, Luna Lights as well, also kind of faded away after the 1st place of Raphael Neven from a couple of weeks ago at the YCS in the States. But, okay, yeah, Luna Lights, yeah, also with Salamangreat as well, people preferring that, of course. This also 60 card, if I'm not mistaken, 60 card Peleos featuring frogs. It's still quite of a good list, but you know, Red Reboot just, you know, takes a dump on, it takes a dump on a super trap heavy deck, for example, like Peleos. And let alone it's quite of a slow deck as well. Last tournament here being in Lima, the top 16, no, the top 8 breakdown with Salamangreats leading, followed by Sky Strikers and of course Subterrors as well. It's basically, you know, Salamangreats and Sky Strikers followed by a couple of Dangers, couple of Subterrors maybe. That's basically it, right? Dangers, Subterrors, and Thunder Dragons, of course. So first place list with Salamangreats as well, opting to go for the Sanctum engine, I believe very similar to the second place list. No, the second place list did not opt to go for the Sanctum engine, but used the Danger engine instead. Not a huge fan personally for Dangers, but it works out fine, I guess, right? So second place list Salamangreats. Third place list Sky Strikers, main decking the double DD Crow heavily against the Salamangreat matchup. This one was interesting, top 8 Salamangreats but using the Mech Knights in the main deck. That's interesting, haven't seen this version. Only 14 cards here in the extra deck, probably a mistake, not really sure, but he also opted to run the Kaiju as well, you know, because of the small Mech Knight engine here in the main deck. So very interesting one, this particular list. So yeah, again, we see Salamangreats, very similar, right? Very similar. And this is the first one, the first Crusadia list shown here. Not too many lists, Crusadia lists from YCS Dusseldorf last week, but it's still like a quite of an Underdark deck. I like the Kaiju field spell here, but I'm not a huge experienced player with this particular list, so it's, you know, with consistency, etc. But again, I feel it's quite of an Underdark deck compared to, you know, Salamangreats and Sky Strikers, right? Okay, so part 2, as we look at the amount of hand traps, as we look for pretty much focused on Salamangreats, very similar to the Zodiac format where the differences between both are most Zodiac lists are in either the hand traps or the regular trap lineup. And if we see from the lists gathered, you know, the Salamangreat lists gathered from past weekends and the weekend before that, we see that Ash Blossom is the best and most used hand trap in Salamangreat, sitting at about a little over 2.8%. So basically every list was running 3 copies. A little under that we had Effect Failure sitting at about 2.3%, so most lists opted to either run 2 or 3 Effect Failure, and Ghost Ogre, sitting at about like 1.13%, so most lists didn't really opt to run Ghost Ogre, or if they ran Ogre it was, well, sometimes just at 2 copies, right? And then the traps, I'm looking at something like Salamangreat Rage and Roar. Rage most of the time just sitting at 1, so 1.1%. Same for Roar. Well, Roar is preferred in most lists, sitting at about 1 or 2 copies over Rage, right? Sitting at about 1.4%. If you look at the Solar Brigade, Strike was a more popular, quote-unquote popular one, sitting at about 0.7%, so that's not a lot. Not too many Salamangreat lists prefer running the Solemn engine. Same for Impermanence, and this I found interesting, only 0.6%, so most lists don't prefer Impermanence in the main deck, so they prefer Failure over this. If you look at the Fusion spell card for Salamangreat, most lists do opt to run 1 in the main deck, sitting at about 0.86%, so again most lists do prefer running 1. This was also an interesting one, the Phantasme, sitting at about 1.13%, so that basically means that the list using it are running 3 copies. I believe there was one list only running 2 copies of the Phantasme hand trap, but outside of that explanation, well, maybe because it's still quite of an expensive card, that might be an explanation, but yeah, maybe people just prefer the regular hand traps as an Ash Blossom, Ghost Ogre, Veiler, right? And last, the Sanctum list, only 4 lists, 4 gathered from the gathered list at least ran the Sanctum engine. So again, I expected this more, but that's how it is, right? Okay, guys, that's it. Thanks for watching, and feel free to leave a card or like if you enjoyed the video. Lithium signing out. Peace.